The heat hits you first as you sit on a cracked wooden bench in a tiny classroom in rural St. Elizabeth. A rusty roof leaks above you, each drop sounding louder than your thoughts scattered by the lack of a math teacher. There are no textbooks to open, only your own worry over how to pass exams without guidance. Your friends whisper about the promise that education is the path out of poverty, but that promise feels distant here. The minutes drag as you sit, head in hands, wondering if forgotten is how the government sees rural youth. Parents report frustration growing as their children attend schools lacking fundamental resources. Daily, you watch classmates drift away, discouraged by lessons that never come. The weight of worry nests heavy in your chest. Can you really compete in exams with no teacher? This is your reality, promised equal education, yet everything says otherwise. Officially, every Jamaican child deserves access to quality education regardless of where they live. Education authorities claim resources are allocated fairly to all regions. The policy pledges that rural schools will get staffing and materials on par with urban centers. Official documents promise investments in infrastructure and teacher training across Jamaica. A spokesperson says challenges are temporary and efforts intensify each school year. School enrollment rates reportedly rise, signaling progress in access for all children. The official commitment to education sounds like hope, but the experience of families tells a different story. My daughter has no math teacher for the third term in a row, a parent reports in exasperation. Another contributor reports classrooms switching subjects mid-year because of teacher shortages. Families say textbooks are outdated or simply don't arrive at their schools. Parents express worry their children won't meet exam standards without proper lessons. Community members complain about school buildings crumbling, yet repairs stall endlessly. You hear stories of teachers leaving rural stations for urban schools with better support. Some say the protests and letters to officials vanish without a trace or action. On the ground, the gap between promise and reality widens each school term. Schools like yours, meant to be sanctuaries of learning, are instead places of frustration and neglect. The teacher shortage turns lessons into self-study sessions, with parents forced to fill the gaps at home. Resources often flow to urban schools while rural areas wait months or years for support. The struggle impacts attendance as motivation fades when no help arrives. Test results show rural students lagging behind due to these systemic challenges, contributors report. Walking through schools with peeling paint and broken furniture, you feel the physical weight of neglect. The systemic failure to allocate resources fairly is a maze of bureaucracy and oversight. Funding announcements for rural education surface sporadically but seldom translate to delivery. Teachers report feeling unsupported and overwhelmed in under-resourced rural schools. You see the strain on principals juggling repairs, staffing, and student needs with scarce means. Local advocates claim the cycle perpetuates inequality, entrenching rural disadvantage. The uneven resource flow undermines the very promise of education for every child. This pattern of neglect reveals a systemic failure in resource allocation. Contributors say rural students are effectively abandoned, expected to learn without essential support. When schools crumble physically and academically, the future of rural youth gets trapped in limbo. You realize the promise of equal education is compromised by deep-rooted inequities. This isn't just about one town or school, it's a widespread pattern affecting rural Jamaica. The deeper truth: resource allocation decisions prioritize urban centers, leaving rural students behind. Without intervention, this pattern will continue, widening the divide for generations to come. You feel the weight of being left behind not just by schools, but by a system that promised you more. Many feel their children are forced to compete on an uneven playing field each exam season. The erosion of rural education equity threatens Jamaican society's broader progress. Picture yourself striving to build a future on foundations that keep cracking under pressure. The promise of education as the way out feels like a distant dream when schools falter. When foundation after foundation crumbles, can a future really be built? Every Jamaican child deserves access to quality education, yet true access requires more than words. Systems must shift from promises to concrete actions that ensure resources reach every classroom. Only when resources flow fairly can hope truly reach the children who need it most. The story of Jamaica's forgotten students is a call to care beyond cities and headlines. This exposes a systemic failure that leaves rural youth vulnerable and overlooked. You see now, education's foundation in many parts of Jamaica is cracked and crumbling. The future of rural students depends on repairing that foundation with urgency and justice. When the foundation of education crumbles, how can a future be built? This is the bigger truth: a system that prioritizes some children leaves others behind.